Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Josh Robishaw joining us here once again. He's the founder and CEO of Matrixa Research Group. Excited to have him here again. They provide research, consulting, membership services. They can help you with genealogy, missing heirs, plan certain vacations for you, so much more, including mental health we're going to talk about today. Let me have Josh introduce himself. Please say hello.
Hey, good morning, Jill. Thanks for having me as always. And good morning, everybody out there. My name is Josh Robishaw. I'm the founder of Matrixa Research Group. Just on a recap over the last few weeks, but we provide research, consulting, and mentorship services. The research typically consists of genealogy or historical type research. And the consulting is typically focuses on travel. So we do a travel concierge where we do travel planning, international, domestic planning, things along those lines, genealogy related travel. And then our mentorship services provide, which is what we're going to discuss a little bit more in depth today, is really focused on mental health and resiliency and kind of a coaching series.
Great. Well, let's talk about how we can reach out to you to start.
Sure. Our website's our main point of contact, matrixaresearch.com. You can reach us there. If you go there, you have our phone number or email, explore@matrixaresearch.com. Or you can book through our portal or contact us through the portal on the website. And we're all also located on just about all the most social media sites: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Our Twitter and Instagram handles @Matrixa_explorers. But if you do a general search in there for Matrixa Research Group, you should find us. So
great. Well, excited to have you here. Thank you. So let's get started. Mental health, we're talking, right?
Yep. So like I said, the last few weeks we've discussed some of the other genealogy and consulting services we provide. This is our last show, so I wanted to really focus on something that's a little near and dear to my heart. Our mentorship. We call it mentorship services, but really it's a focus on resiliency and mental health in a number of different capacities. So just up front, what we kind of basic offerings we have: one-on-one coaching, group coaching. We call it corporate coaching or corporate training type sessions. And all those typically focus on resiliency, leadership, and really what we're trying to do is break down that stigma of asking for help. A lot of times it's a culture thing, so maybe we can come in and assist a company or a group with maybe slight changes they need to their culture to open people up to being open about getting mental health services or asking for mental health services. I will caveat this: I am not a mental health professional. We don't have mental health professionals on staff. A lot of the training we developed while I was back in the Navy was developed alongside mental health professionals, and a lot of it stems from published mental health professionals that are out there, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So
great. Well, go ahead. What are some of the types of services that you're offering that you do work with?
So besides all those things, I'll kind of focus on where this came from actually. So back in 2017, while still serving the Navy, we were the place I was serving. We started to notice a little bit of we actually had a pretty good culture there already, but we started to notice a little bit of things here and there where folks were just starting to have some issues. We had a pretty hefty schedule, as you can imagine. Folks were typically working a lot of hours. They were leaving home a lot. And in this case, we had one sailor who kind of had a small little, I don't know if breakdown's the right word, but a small little incident at work one day. He just came in the office and started talking about how he was struggling, this and that, and he really needed help. He didn't think he could get help, and things along those lines. So I said, okay, so we obviously got him immediate help at that moment, but it kind of put a thought in my mind and my boss's mind of like, if he's having these thoughts and and he doesn't think he can get help, well, who else is having that thoughts, or how many other people are having those issues? So that for me started a thing where years prior to that, I had been thinking about how could I talk about my story, some of my mental health struggles, and how could I turn that into training sessions and mentorship sessions for the sailors that work for me or for my peers, things like that. So at that moment, it kind of clicked in my head, like, okay, this might be the time to actually make something happen here. Luckily, my boss at the time was really receptive about it. He had worked with some high profile folks in the Navy, and he had a lot of mental health training and seen professionals himself, so he knew the benefits of it. So with him, I talked about what I kind of wanted to outline, what I wanted to devise, and the training I wanted to create. He was on board. So we took that training to, most military bases have some type of family support center, and typically they have a psychologist or mental health professionals on staff there. So I took the training to them, and I said, hey, can you take a look at this stuff, make sure I'm on the right path, make sure I'm not putting stuff in there that I shouldn't. It's fairly basic training. But the ironic thing with some of the stuff I talked in the last couple of weeks, as I was doing this research, I found, and I don't want to screw up his name, I always do. I found it's called Roadmap to Resiliency by Dr. Donald Meichenbaum, who, if you look him up, prolific, profound American psychologist. He's done a great amount of stuff for PTSD, cognitive PTSD therapy, all these things. So I'm looking through his roadmap to resiliency, and it's talking about resiliency and bouncing back and all these things. And it's starting to click on how I've always thought of life and mental health. And it's kind of ironic here, if anybody's listened before, I'm a big travel nerd. So I've always thought about mental health as this big transit map. As you're in New York, so you can picture the, New York the grid, right? And you're going through life and you have these ups and downs and positives and negatives, people that help you, people that may not be helping you. And you have, as you go to each station, you're building your train car, you're adding cars, you're removing cars. If it's a positive thing, maybe you're adding it, you're adding some baggage, negative or positive. And so you're just going through this life of transit map. So it's kind of ironic that that's how I always thought about it. And I'm reading his roadmap to resiliency, and I realized, okay, I can kind of combine some of these things I'm learning into training for the sailors at the time. And that's kind of what we did. And let me see just my notes here. So we did that. I developed some training. I try not to do death by PowerPoint, but at first it was developed into a PowerPoint, and I've kind of dumbed it down to a few slides, just to kind of hone in on some of the important pieces. So we really break down, definitions. Take it from the basics first. Resiliency, mental health, equating mental health. It's really no different than, if I break my leg today, how is it any different than if I can't work for 3 weeks? Is that really any different than me getting mental health services for 3 weeks and I can't work? It shouldn't be.
No.
Mental health is health. I just saw that this morning, actually, in somebody's post on Instagram. But so we kind of rolled through that and started to give the training out and see how it went. Now, for me, I think it was more beneficial that while I was in uniform, I could stand up there. I started from the ground on up. Was 10 years enlisted, then became an officer. Did what they would call the harder way. And then I got help throughout my career in there, and I never had any repercussions. So it was very, I think, powerful for me to be able to stand up, talk about stuff, talk about getting help, and then people could visibly see that I didn't have any repercussions. I still made my ranks. I still did all that, and I had been successful the whole time. So I thought that was very important then. It's a little harder to translate now, but we do discuss that, and I bring that up, and it's part of the training that I give in the civilian side too now. But so it's kind of an interesting piece. It was an important part of it back then. So I further developed that. Like I said, I just retired, so I had about 5 years to continue to develop this training. Did it numerous times throughout my career, whether it was a setting of 3 or 4 people. I think the largest group I had was about 150 in an auditorium, which even for me, it's a bit daunting. I'm not, when we're talking about mental health, it's not the easiest for me to get up there and talk about some of this stuff, but I know the importance of it. So, but I think when you talk about it from a personal side and a personal standpoint, it just brings the point across even better, So I've done that. And so now here we are, I've made it part of the business and as an offering to folks. And like I said, most of the sessions are either, a 20, 30, 40-minute somewhat training session, but a lot of it's just discussion, and a lot of it focuses on discussion. It's a lot of simple concepts that don't maybe get that aren't easy to implement. I would say, leadership, and especially when folks are trying to change the culture, some of that stuff's easier said than done. And so we focus on that. If somebody said, a company said, hey, we're curious about our culture, can you come in and talk to us about it, and what can we do? It's easy as a leader to say, well, I need to get to know my people, but are you actually doing that? It's one thing to say hello every day. That's not getting to know your folks. I had this thing, and And I used to come in early so I could get a lot of work done early, and that afforded me time during the day to walk around. I walked around a lot where I worked, and I sat and talked with folks. It wasn't just a hello. It was sometimes I had 30-minute conversations. I'd sit in an office with a group of 5 or 6 folks, and we would just talk about everything, and when you have things like that, relationships like that, I think it opens people up. In one of these instances, after we had that one incident at the place I was at, we started to do the training and started to show people that it's important to get mental help. We actually had folks self-report, and I won't say a lot, but a decent amount. We had, I'd probably say in the last couple of years there, after the training was implemented, we had maybe 3 to 5 folks, if I remember, self-report, and I mean, like, come up to a senior official at work and say, hey, I'm struggling, I need to get help. I mean, when I was 18 years old in the Navy, that was unheard of. Like, you would just not do that, so I thought that it was a really good result of some of our training and some of the open lines of communication we developed as the culture there where I was at. So we pinpoint a lot on those type of things and try to help folks and companies understand that there's ways to do this. There's ways we can help our employees, or there's ways you can change the culture and things like that. So like I said, that's kind of one thing we focus on. How do we include that in mental health? And as a leader, if you're a leader in your company, how do you include that in your day-to-day practice? And it can be as simple as, like I said, walking around, but it really is getting to know your folks. And I don't know how many times I've had people come up to me, hey, you're right today, you seem a little off. Oh yeah, maybe I'm a little more stressed, or I am a little off. But that's because they know I'm off today. But that's, like I said, that's not easy necessarily to implement or do. I'm probably more of an introvert. So for me to walk around and talk all day, it's a little exhausting, but like, again, it's important. So I think if you're in a leadership position, or even not in a leadership position, you just, we try to promote certain ways for you to help your team and help your employees out with getting help. And a big thing there is just, opening those lines of communication. Any of us would come into work, hey, I got in a car accident and broke my leg last night, all of us would come in and have no problem telling everybody that, or no problem, that's an obvious thing you gotta fast on,
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're right.
Nobody wants to talk about
the
mental health.
It's quiet.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand it. You say, hey, I'm having a super stressful day today. Well, you look fine, or I'm really depressed today, but you look like you're not depressed. Well, that's not how it works. So I just think, I think we are progressing toward a better understanding, but we're just not there yet. I mean, you see it even in the military. Our suicide rate is high, significantly high. And in fact, I had people comment, well, would you rather not have, don't you think, those 3 to 5 people that self-reported, don't you think that's a high number? Maybe that means your culture's bad, that you're having people that are suicidal. And I said, I think you're looking at it the wrong way. We actually have a good culture. And maybe we can take some of the stuff we're learning from them getting help, that maybe the schedule is a little bit too much, or, you can change things like that. Maybe you need to crank up the work-life balance a little bit, or something along those lines. So it's just I think you can get some interesting results and learn a lot about yourself and about your company by going through some of this. And, there's just so much positivity around it. I think it's just a great thing to do. A lot of the other stuff we do we have a speaker series where a lot of it's pro bono. I go out and speak at a military command, or go out and speak at a military base. We do a lot of that type of stuff for free. Maybe a high school wants somebody to talk about resiliency or something like that. So a lot of that stuff we just do. And then, like I said, we do charge for other type of services, but it's a pretty interesting thing we've developed, and I think it's helped a lot of people along the way.
Well, that's so kind of you to offer all this. And at this point, before we continue, just remind everyone how we can reach out to you, and then we'll continue. Thank you.
Via the website. So our main website, matrixaresearch.com. We have phone numbers there. Our emails, explore@matrixaresearch.com. Via the website, you can book any of our services. You can just contact us through a portal. So it's pretty easy setup there, or all of our most large social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And our handle for Twitter and Instagram is Matrixa_explores.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And what was next on the list?
So I'm just going to focus a little bit more on, that communication piece is big. I think once you start, discussing ways to change your culture or just open up a little more. Once you open those lines up of communication more from that simple hello, and then, go back to your office for the day. As a leader, I think it's important to get out in front of your folks. And the more you're out there, the more you talk, whether you're sitting in front of the coffee machine and you have it, how was your weekend? And you start to develop those rapports with your team. And you just learn so much more about somebody. And those lines of communication really open up okay, that person's different today. What's going on, And I think it's probably harder in the civilian world. I think in the military world, as closed off we are, maybe sometimes to the outside, we're internally as teams, we're probably a little bit more open to folks. So I think in the civilian side, maybe it's harder. You just want to go in and get out. A lot of people don't want to talk about their personal life, which is fair. But just having those day-to-day conversations about anything for that matter really opens those lines of communication, and I think just fosters the culture that, these people care about me, and maybe I can, hey boss, I'm having a bad day today, or I need a day, or things like that. I think it's extremely important. And then sometimes the simple stuff, I laugh. So back in November, I went on I called it my retirement trip gift for myself. And I ended up following my favorite band around Europe for about 10 days. And not something I would normally do, but I ended up getting the VIP package for one of the things where it was a meet and greet for the whole band. So, I've never met them before, of course. So I'm there with a bunch of people, and we're going through the band. You get to go through each person and talk to them. We're having great conversation with all of them. And I get to the lead singer, and we're talking. She's like, "Oh, what do you do?" She's asking general questions. I said, "Well, I just retired from the Navy." And they've always had some type of military thing in some of their songs. So I think they have a soft spot for that type of stuff. So when she found out that I just retired, she asked a simple question. I don't know this woman. I've never met her, and she said, "How are you doing?" But the way she said it was very poignant and honestly a little emotional. Like, oh wow, she just asked me, doesn't know me, but she kind of knew the question to ask, And it was interesting, like it kind of another light bulb moment for me in the mental health and resiliency stuff was, wow, that was an easy question to ask from somebody that doesn't know me. And she got a good answer for me. And I just thought it was something so simple you could ask that it was just very interesting. And, like I said, you can easily do that in your office setting, even if you don't know the person. How are you doing today? It was such a simple question, but it could mean a lot to somebody, or it could just open a box that get somebody the help they needed or things like that. I just found it very interesting. So
wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. And now, just curious, when did you start Matrixa, by the way?
So Matrixa itself didn't start till officially last September. So
okay. Wow. So you really are more, multitasking.
I am multitasking. This is actually my second company. I have an antique business too. So
what?
Yeah, but
we didn't talk about that yet. Wait a minute.
No, that one's been about 5 years old though. So I developed that.
Okay.
Funny, actually, a bit of a mental health piece there with that too. Knowing the struggle that comes with transitioning from the military, especially after a full 20-year career, I think for me that if I had started this small antique business on a part-time basis before I transitioned, that it would probably help me transition a little bit better. And then, in the last year, I'd started to develop the idea for Matrixa too, somewhere in there, but I didn't, because of the nature of my business with the government, I couldn't really go full bore with Matrixa until I was retired. So the idea kind of developed, and I think having the other company transition and help my transition in the Navy, I was looking for other jobs just in case, but for the most part, I had a plan and mentally I was ready to go. And it helped that transition that I had stuff to do, because I think sometimes a lot of people struggle. It's such a tight-knit community and a rigid thing, especially if you do it for, I guess it doesn't really matter if you do it for 4 years or 20 years, but it's just a different world, right? And then you leave it and all of a sudden everything's different. So, that's something we can help with too. I've had people reach out, "Oh, you're newly retired. Can you walk me through some stuff here? Can you help me out? How do you transition?" Things like that. So that's something we work on a little bit too. Now, a lot of the people that reached out are people that knew me from before. So, you always end up helping each other out in some capacity. But so it's just been an interesting thing from the mental health perspective. We love to continue it here. We love to, we love to have the discussions. We love to have the talks. We love when we see results. It's, that personal side of it, which I think you don't. A lot of times, I've been in settings where, hey, we're going to have some mental health training today, and it's death by PowerPoint or death by dictionary, or it's just very rigid training that you end up falling asleep, or you're not paying attention after slide 3. But when in our case, we really try to bring that personal side of things into it, and I think that just ramps it up a notch, and people pay attention, people care. And I think it just brings the message across so much better than sitting through the the dreary corporate training or some of the training you might just see out there.
Got it. Well, thank you for sharing. And we still got 7 minutes left in the show. Josh, what else did you want to focus on for us?
I'll just hit, since it's our last one, I'll just go back to, back and talk quickly about maybe the other 2 departments we have. But like I said, this is our 3rd department, the one that's more near dear to my heart, our mentorship piece. Just to recap what we offer: one-on-one coaching. We don't do children, but we do maybe young adults, high school age on up. Corporate training, corporate coaching, group coaching sessions. We have a speaker series. We're actually looking to maybe develop a podcast type series too. We haven't really talked about that yet nor figured that out, but that might be coming down the pike at some point. Then our other 2 major departments, like I said on the intro, is our research department and our consulting department. Research, we mainly focus on genealogy. We do a lot of family histories, a lot of family history reports, missing heirs. A lot of times genealogy stuff comes up associated with the law, maybe. In fact, we got into it really early when I was younger. We had a case where we had a lawyer reach out because a cousin was trying to settle some of our family members' estate. And the lawyer was able to get a genealogist and realize that, hey, so there's some other people that are part of this estate. So things like that, missing heirs and things along those lines. Along with the antique company we do a lot of provenance research. So for antiques that you find that you might need a research back, we do a lot of research there. And then our travel consulting, which is our consulting department, focuses a lot on travel. There are some other small things we do here and there, but mostly we have a travel concierge that'll walk you literally through step 1 to however of your travel plan. You want to plan your trip, whether it's inside the States or somewhere around the world. We have a lot of expertise with travel, so we'll help you develop your plan. We don't offer booking service at this time, but we'll tell you what to book. We'll find you the best planes. We'll find you the best hotels. We have a organic questionnaire that we developed that we sit down and talk to you during your free consult. Go over that, and then we can develop a plan from there. We use a nice. I'll give Travify a good spot here, but we use their planning software. It's really easy to use. It sends the customer a nice visual via website or a printable PDF of their whole itinerary. It's just a great thing. Yeah. And then along those lines, whether you want basic planning or things, we do area scouting, some type of security consulting if you need it. If you want security consulting for a certain area, things like that, or a building or a hotel for your group stay. And coupled with our genealogy, I think we talked about it in a few previous podcasts. We couple our travel planning with genealogy. If you want to go back and see some sites of your ancestors, we'll get that all planned for you and get that hooked up.
Got it. Well, thank you so much. And if someone has an initial question to reach out to you about the counseling, about your services in general, how do we do that?
Like I said before, easy. We're all over the place. Just go right to our website, matrixaresearch.com. You can call us at our number there. You can reach out to on our contact portal there on the website. We have the ability to book certain things right via our website. It'll give you a nice calendar. You can schedule whatever you like, or you can go to any of the social media sites: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. We're all over there. Trying to build our presence a little bit more. That's a daily thing. Social media is so big now, but on Twitter and Instagram, we can be found at Matrixa_explorers. And a lot of times you're going to see stuff there. We post a lot of genealogy, a lot of travel reviews. We started doing travel reviews. So you'll see that via our website, and also those go out on all our social media sites. When we talk about trying to bring some expertise to your travel planning, we're on the ground trying these things out ourselves too. So would come from a place of expertise. So
perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much. Matrixa Research Group. Your cat pillow is still there, up and shining.
Yeah.
And can I just ask, so with like PTSD, right? Is
right.
what we call post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
And like you say, people don't know. So what about we can just, maybe mention to our listeners today to kind of reach out to people, whether you've served or whether it could happen for so many different reasons. Look at your friends, look at your family, think about someone who may be a little quiet, a little bit off. The holidays just came, winter's depressing, this cold weather. And could you give us some advice to maybe just take an extra look at those around you?
Like I said before, it's if you know somebody, it's a little easier because you can pick out, what something's changed, or maybe a day-to-day thing's changed. But yeah, if you just get to know your friends, get to know your folks you work with, get to know your team a little bit more than the simple hello. And when you recognize something's off, that's time to ask the question. Don't be scared to ask the question, because that question might save somebody's lives.
Got it. Well, thank you so much for being here, for joining us. And in closing today, one more time, tell us the website.
MatrixaResearch.com.
Great. Thank you again. We really appreciate it. And
thanks, Jill. I appreciate it.
The next time we connect. Thank you. And antique business, but just hold on. You can just tell me, is there a website for that?
Yeah, it's terminal37.com.
How did you get involved in that?
I grew up northern Massachusetts. There's a bunch of antique places. My parents used to take me to all these places, and I loved it since I was a kid. And ironically, it's a lot of travel related antiques too. So I go figure.
Yeah,
right?
you got to. Oh my goodness! And all this is online. People can virtually buy the.
It's all online. Terminal37.com websites for the website, and then eBay and Etsy. We sell there too. So.
Terminal 37. All right. Thank you so much.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.